let's start with this. Let's start with just put type number 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Type number 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I don't know how much the delay there is on this. Maybe too much, but everything looks good. Let's see here. Says the mic's on, so hopefully let's turn the music on. There we go. How is everybody doing? Again, 1 in the chat if you can hear me would be tremendous. If you could type the number 1. Otherwise, there we go. Thank you, Shuma. Number 1, wonderful. Well, good. At least the mic works. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little nervous about tonight. This is obviously not my first talk that I've ever given, but it's certainly the first one that we've ever done this way. So welcome to 2020. Welcome to the way things have to be done. We got Waffle Fry. There we go. Coming in. Looks like there's a little bit of a delay on the chat, which is fine. At least you can hear me. Good. We got 17 people. Next question. I'd like if you could let me know. I want to get a sense of kind of who's here, who's hanging out with us. If you're a player, if you're an athlete, type athlete. If you're a parent, I'd like you to write parent. Just type in parent, enter that into the chat. If you're a coach, do the same, write coach. And then we will get this thing going here. Yeah. Good. Connection looks good. That's always encouraging. We got an athlete. We got Lewis, an athlete. Good. Who else we got? Another athlete. Waffle Fryer's an athlete. Wonderful. Any parents or coaches? Any parents or coaches? Shuma's an athlete. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Parent, coach, and athlete. So we got the whole family. We got the whole family watching. That'll work. Okay, good. Good. Hi, Spencer. Parent, coach, or athlete? Spencer, what do you got for me? Athlete. Okay, good. A lot of athletes. We got 18 people. We got people trickling in. That's good. Athlete. Got a coach. Julie. Faculty and coach. Wonderful. Again, at this time, I just want to kind of know who I'm talking to. Do we have athletes in the chat? Do we have parents in the chat? Do we have coaches in the chat? The presentation is or what we're going to be talking about tonight, all the different topics, we're definitely going to hit it from all angles, from all roles. So everything that we'll talk about will certainly apply to athletes, will certainly apply to parents, and certainly apply to coaches as well. Give everybody a little bit more time here. I know it's only 8:03. Good, good, good. Spencer's an athlete. Wonderful. Thank you, Spencer. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I think we're going to get going. I'll have my eyes on the chat here as we jump in. So again, athlete, awesome. Thank you. Happy to have you here. We got an athlete. So we got a lot of athletes in here tonight. Wonderful. Love it. A lot of athletes, few parents, probably a few coaches, probably a lot of people doing stuff with their hands that don't want to dirty up their phone. So totally get that too. But I'll go ahead and introduce myself, kind of talk about what we're doing over here on this channel. So my name is Jay Tuft. I own PERC. PERC is a sports psychology mental performance firm out here in Denver. Been doing that for about this will be the 4th year that I've been doing this, working with athletes, Olympic athletes, professional athletes, college athletes, doing a lot of work with obviously high-level youth athletes. I serve as the director of mental performance for the Rough Rider Sport Club, just up the road from you guys, up at the sports stable. Before PERC, spent a couple years at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs working there. And then obviously I spent the time before that at the University of Denver. That's where I got my degree. So yeah, that's kind of the road. Met Coach Jamie, Coach O'Leary at the Rough Riders, and we were able to do quite a bit of work together. Came in and talked to some of the coaches last season. This is the channel, and this is kind of the next direction that I'm trying to take this company for a variety of reasons. I think coach and athlete, welcome Vortex. Appreciate you. I see you there. Appreciate you jumping in. That's the next. This channel is kind of the next direction, and doing so for a variety of reasons. The biggest goal here with this channel and the trainwithperk.com website is to start to make mental training and the sports psychology resources just more accessible, because over the last 4 years I've seen that as being just a huge problem. That has been a huge challenge for my field, to be able to get these resources, to make them accessible. And there's a lot of barriers to that for a lot of people. Hi Lizzie, thank you so much. Parent and athlete, wonderful, welcome. But there's been a lot of barriers to just really high quality mental training and sports psychology resources just out there for everybody. For the longest time, it was reserved to just Olympic athletes and just professional athletes, and then college athletic departments. Only really just these last couple of years have started installing that into their athletic departments. And so that's what we're, let me make sure that I didn't mute my mic. Yeah, there we go. So that's essentially the point, the purpose of this channel is trying to make these more accessible, because again, a lot of the barriers to entry for these types of resources, sometimes it's financial. I mean, it's not always cheap. To go and find somebody like myself or somebody who's highly trained. Many times I think sometimes it's just a time issue. You all watching this in your organization there with Highland Hills Hockey, I mean, time is of the essence sometimes. Many times. I mean, we wake up, we go to school or we go to work, we find some time to eat, then we go to practice. Maybe we have a game, and then we're back at home, we're eating. So sometimes just time in general, we're working on other aspects of the game, and many times I think the mental side falls through the cracks. I think the other huge barrier is there's just a lack of quality information out there. I think since I've started taking this stuff online and spending a lot more time on social media and seeing what's been put out there for people to digest, it's hard to find some quality stuff. It's hard to find stuff that just isn't the cliche, that just isn't the thing that's trying to get you to like the post, or share the post, or whatever it may be. There's just not a lot of useful information. Maybe that's been some of the experience for some of you guys who have sought out this information, is that a lot of what's put out there on the internet doesn't necessarily help. So the solution to that is this channel. This channel, Train with Perk channel. If you haven't subscribed already, I strongly encourage you to do so. This channel is 100% free, and we're just getting it off the ground here. I've been working on it for about 2 months now. I think I have all of 10 videos. The first couple were, not the best production quality. And the information's good, but not necessarily the best production quality. So we're getting that. We're bringing that up to speed to where I would like it. But everything here on this channel is completely free. Like this talk right now tonight, this is not meant to sell you anything. This is not meant to get you to buy a resource. This isn't going to be a bunch of fluff where, I tell you a bunch of what you should do and why you should do it, but I don't tell you the how. That's not going to be tonight. This is 100% as much value as I can pack in. I asked Jamie to kind of poll the community there over at Highland Hills, coaches, parents, athletes. What are some of the things that you guys wanted to know about? And that's where we kind of generated the topic list that was on that website there, and we'll dive into that shortly. In a lot of my videos, and even down in the description here for this, below this stream, in the description there, you'll find a link to a free guide, trainwithperk.com/free guide. Again, 100% free. Type in your email address, boom. There's free mental training. Right there, 3 big things. I call it the Perk Fit Guide to Winning Your Next Big Moment. It's essentially, I'll talk about it here in a little bit, but it's essentially if somebody came into my office and said, you know what, I would love to, I'd love 2 or 3 things to take to elevate my performance and to take into the next competition. It's over there at that guide. So again, trainwithperk.com/free guide. And then, even over there on the website, I'll be developing some courses, some paid courses that are incredibly affordable. That's just meant to get some of this information out there. So excited to dive in. I think at this time, we're probably going to dive into the first topic. One in the chat if you're ready to go. Just throw me a 1 in there. Looks like we got, 30 people. I'll be honest with you. I was going to be excited if 5 people showed. I'm very impressed by that number. 32 people now. Look at that. 1 in the chat if you're ready to go. Let's start talking some sports psych. Let's start talking some mental training. Let's start getting you guys some value. Let's dive in here. So let's make sure, again, first time on a live stream, let's make sure that I just get all this stuff where it needs to be. Let's tie this over here. Waffle, there we go. Yeah, there's got to be some sort of delay. I've got to have this on some sort of delay. I will have to look into that if and when we do this in the future. Love it. Lizzie, overachiever, typing out 1. Typing out the number 1. So let's talk about this first topic. Let's talk about the first one. The first thing that you guys wanted to know, or maybe the coaches wanted me to talk about, or parents wanted me to talk about, is how does training the brain help in sports? Tremendous question. So one of the things, and really what it's getting to here, let's make sure that there we go. Really what this is getting to is like, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of mental training? And I think this is actually an incredibly underrated question, because I'll go into, whether it's a Rough Rider team or, all the Rough Rider sports up there, really any team that I start working with. And I'll go into the team and I'll ask the standard question of, how much of sport is mental? And I'll always get the standard, like it's I don't think I've ever heard anything less than 50%. Sometimes it's much more than 50%. I'm like, all right, okay. I'm going to trust that you're, not just blowing smoke here because I'm the mental guy and you're telling me that sport is more than 50% mental. That's great. Makes me feel good. But with the amount of answers that I got, I don't think that they're just telling me that just to tell me that. The next question that I'll ask then is, well, how much time have you spent putting towards the mental side of your sport? And almost always, there's a big fat goose egg. Just nothing. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the reason for that is because that every single athlete that I've ever had a conversation with is lazy. I don't think that's the reason. I don't think that it's that they don't want to. I don't think that it's that they don't value mental training, the mental side of their sport. I don't think any of those things. I think the issue is that we don't understand what the point is. We don't understand what the purpose of mental training is. And so I'll ask them, like, what is the point? All right, so we want to do some mental training. Why? What's the point? It gets to this question here. And you'll always get the, well, it's going to help me play better. And it's like, yeah, well, training all the other aspects of your sport help you play better as well, but why the mental side? And then you'll hear the confidence, and so I can focus and, so I can handle my emotions better. And I'm always following that up with why. Because yes, those are skills, and yes, those are things that we want to get better at, but I don't think we have a lot of clarity as far as why should we be doing this in the first place. Because at the end of the day, there's really, as for you athletes, and I know we got quite a few of you, and thank you for being here. For you athletes, there's only 4 things that you can train. 4 things that you can train as an athlete. First one is obviously physical. Okay, so this is all the strength and conditioning, all the running, all the endurance, all that good stuff. And I think the point of this is pretty straightforward. Why do we train the physical side? So we can get bigger, faster, and stronger. For you hockey players that are watching this is obviously so I can be more physical, so I can have a stronger presence, so I can be aggressive, be physically aggressive, that sort of thing. I think we have a very clear idea as to why the physical side of the game is important. The next aspect is the technical side. The next aspect of the game that we can develop is the technical side. Now this is all the skating, all the shooting, all the passing, and so obviously all the skill work and all the practice and all the ice time. It's very, very clear for all of you watching this that what's the point of putting in time and energy and effort towards the technical side of your sport. Then we have the tactical. Then we have the tactical side of the sport. Now this is where, at times people can get tripped up. The tactics of a sport are really just the strategy, Right, so the most common way that we build up the tactical side of the sport, watching film, installing a system, right? Learning our system, studying the system, studying how the other team plays defense. Those are all the tactics of the game. Also, very clear purpose. So these first three, it's a very clear purpose for why we do these things. The mental side, we just get a lot of question marks. And so here's the answer. Developing the mental side of your sport allows you to get the most out of the physical, the technical, and the tactical sides for competition. That's the point. The point of developing confidence is so that way we can get as much, we can act confidently, and we can get as much out of all the physical, the technical, and the tactical side as we can. Right? That's the point. Why do we need to handle our emotions, or why do we need to focus better? So that way we can execute all of the training. Okay. Vortex has a question here. How do you define mental training? Is neuromuscular adaptation included in that? Yeah, in a way. I mean, essentially what you're saying with neuromuscular adaptation is motor programming. Any sort of neuromuscular adaptation is motor programming. So the more that we work on, so say for example, a technique, okay, the more that we rep that out. So certainly what we're talking about with mental training is more so, say for example, confidence. How do we focus? How do we handle our emotions? How do we handle pressure? How do we handle failure? How do we handle mistakes? That's the mental side of the game. Okay, let's go ahead and back out here. Does that make sense to everybody? So what I should have said, and Vortex, no problem, man. I appreciate the question, truly. What we'll do is I'll go through kind of each segment here, kind of get through each segment, and then I'll take questions. But I think that question came at a really good time. Who has some questions about mental training? Now that we understand what it is and what brain training is, who has some specific questions? And again, I know there's going to be a little bit of a delay, so we'll have to get through these awkward pauses here. Neuromuscular adaptation, yeah, that's, like I said, Vortex, that's more motor programming stuff. When you rep out a specific technique, that sort of thing. Mental training is more confidence, focus, handling emotions, handling pressure. How do we respond to stress? How do we respond to failure? All of those things can be tied up into mental training. So mental skills are certainly a part of it, right? We love to hear about mental skills. The other side of it, though, is, foundationally the mindset. And that's where we start talking about the pressure and the emotions, that sort of thing. Does anybody have a question? Does anybody have a question? Good question there, though. Should you practice mental training every day? You can. I think that's a little unrealistic, though. Great question, Lizzie. Should you practice mental training every day? You certainly can. And obviously, the more that we practice anything, the more that we're going to benefit. I think that the challenge, though, is starting from nothing. It's like any sort of physical training, right? For those people who struggle going to the gym, going from no times a week to 5 times a week is probably going to be pretty miserable, right? The ability to maybe we go once or twice a week. So yes, mental training should be done often. I think it depends on what you're doing from a mental training standpoint. I think it's, can you build out some sort of mental training routine? Can you build it into your routine? But I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, you should do it every day. I think you should start with something. And I think to that point, the easiest way to start, well, I'll get to that in a second. All right, Spencer O'Brien, why does the brain react like 75% of training, if not like 25? I'll be honest with you, Spence, I'm not following your question. When would you use the mental in a game? Let me ask you this, James. Great question. James asked, when would you use the mental side in a game? Let me ask you this, James. Is there ever a time when you're not using the mental side? Whether we realize it or not, right? Is it because essentially, when would you use the mental in a game? You're essentially asking, is there a time when my brain isn't turned on? Well, our brain's always on. So we're always using some aspect of mental in the game, right? Whether we know it or not. Okay? So for example, talk about stress or talk about handling pressure. We all just innately have some ability to handle a certain level of pressure. But if that pressure gets to be too much, now all of a sudden we really start to struggle. Right. So exactly, James. So no, there's never a time that let's try to not use a double negative here. We always use our brain. Our brain is always going. We're always thinking. We're always reading and reacting. We're always processing information. We're always feeling certain things. We always need to focus. Okay? So there's never a time when we're not using some aspect of the mental side in the game. Do me a favor, for you athletes, throw your age in the chat here real quick. Throw your age in the chat. Just want to know, these are great questions. Really impressed by the questions already. Tremendous, tremendous questions. Why is mental so much of sport? That's actually a great question. Let's actually talk about this. So why is the mental so much of sport? Okay. So what I think you're asking is, why do people say the 10, 13, almost 14, 13, 11? Okay, good. Yeah. So why is the mental so much of sport? I think right now for a lot of you guys, if we're being honest, James O'Leary 10. I imagine that's Coach O'Leary's boy. That's talking there. That's funny. Coach O'Leary's 10 years old. That's funny. Why is the mental so much of sport? Okay. I think right now, if I'm being honest for you guys, I think the mental is certainly a part of it. Whether it's how we handle pressure or how we handle failure or how we handle emotion. But one of the things that I always talk to my athletes, so when I'm working, so you guys are obviously 10, looks like 10, 13, 14, 11. So when I'm working with my U18s, Rough Rider hockey players, Tier 1 hockey players up at the sports stable, we're having a conversation. The mental side is going to matter a lot more to them. Because if we think about the four aspects of our game that we're trying to develop, the physical, the technical, and the tactical. When you're younger, like you guys, when you're just, really kind of getting your feet wet into competitive hockey, there tends to be some bigger gaps there physically. Some kids are just bigger, faster, stronger. Some kids are just more technically sound. Some kids just have a better understanding of the game. And it varies greatly from athlete to athlete. But as you guys are going to start rising up through the ranks, as you go into maybe your 13U, your 14U year, then we get to our 16U year and our 18U year, eventually the gap in terms of physical, technical, and tactical ability really starts to narrow. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It really starts to narrow. There's not as much, like on the 18U hockey team, when they're going up against guys, they're starting to get to a place where everybody's kind of the same physically gifted. Everybody's kind of the same technically sound. Everybody's kind of, everybody has a really high understanding of the game. So it's where what starts to matter more as you elevate through the ranks of sport. What starts to matter more is the mental side. The mental side starts to matter just so much more. You think about NHL. NHL, we just kicked off hockey. We just kicked off the hockey season. Think about, is there really that much of a difference between the physical, the technical, and the tactical abilities of those athletes? There really isn't. There really isn't. You even go a step further. When I was working down at the Olympic Training Center, everybody was physically gifted. Everybody was very technically sound. Everybody had a really high IQ for the game. What separated those that made it to the Olympics versus those that didn't make it to the Olympics was honestly the mental side. So I think that's certainly something. Now, that doesn't mean that the mental side doesn't matter for you all. But I think what you need to consider is, if I start investing into the mental side now, how is that going to give me an edge as I continue to move through the sport? Because I'll be honest with you, there's even junior hockey players that haven't done a single piece of the mental side, and eventually they get to a place where the pressure's too much, the emotions are too much, it's too stressful. And then we have to start over. So if you guys start making an investment now, in whether it's just watching a few YouTube videos or reading a few things or doing a few of the exercises that you find in those videos, anything right now that you do as we elevate through the sports, it's going to start to give you a real edge as you start to develop you have to continue obviously developing the physical, the technical, and the tactical. It's not a replacement for that. Let's be very clear. The mental side will not replace, because again, if I go back here, let's go back here. The mental side allows you to get the most out of the physical, the technical, and the tactical. Notice how I didn't say it replaces. So it doesn't replace the physical work. It doesn't replace the technical work. It doesn't replace the tactical work. It allows you to get the most out of all of that, blood, sweat, tears that you're putting in, all the hard work that you're putting in. When it comes time for competition, and now we're feeling some stress, and we're feeling some emotions, and we're feeling that pressure. The mental side is there to figure out, all right, can this allow me to get the most out of all of that preparation? Does it allow me to get the most out of all of that preparation? I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how smooth I can transition between that. How about that? First time. First time. All right. Are we clear on that? Give me a 1 in the chat if you're good, if we're good to move on. I think we're probably good to move on. I think that was a really nice conversation, guys. I appreciate the questions. Really appreciate the questions there. That was tremendous. That was tremendous. 1 in the chat if we're ready to move forward. Got a little bit of a cold, not COVID. A little bit of a cold. No worries. We're good. 1 in the chat. 1. All right, we're good. Love it, fellas. We're going to keep it moving then. Let's go on to the next one. So, 34 people. That's incredible. Thank you all for being here, taking the time. That's incredible. All right. Second topic that you guys wanted to know about. How to maintain focus on development and achievement. In the second part of this, and I didn't have enough room on the slide, the second part of this was, in the middle of a pandemic. Now, fortunately, it sounds like we're coming out of it, right? I mean, the mere fact that I've been having team sessions again with my Tier 1 hockey guys is a really good sign. So it sounds like we're starting to come out of it. But I do think that how athletes responded to sports and games being canceled and that kind of adversity, I do think that was pretty telling. So let's address this question. Let's give you guys some advice, or let's talk about, how to maintain focus on development and achievement here. Okay. So essentially, whenever I get a question like this, we want to be able to break it down. Okay. What was the problem that happened? Why is Hyland Hills Hockey asking me this? Well, my assumption is that the pandemic happened, games and practices were canceled, and that led to athletes stopped working maybe as hard as we should have, right? The athletes stopped working. And we want to understand why. Well, the short answer to this, why this happened, there we go. The short answer is that you athletes that are in there, you guys like playing games. Playing games is really motivating. It's a really big driving factor. Totally normal. I liked playing sports. Like when I played sports, I loved playing games. Right? And I was probably guilty of maybe that being the only driving factor. Maybe I was guilty. Maybe we lose sight at times that shouldn't be the only motivator for working hard in hockey. The only motivator shouldn't be playing games, because if that's the only driving factor, if games are the only thing that's driving you, for you athletes that are saying, what's going to happen then when the games get taken away? What's going to happen then when the games get taken away? Well, we're probably not going to maybe work as hard. We're not going to do those drills, or maybe we don't take practice as seriously. And I think we really have to understand why. Why do we place so much importance on games? All right? Why do we place so much importance on games? Well, for the most part, like I said, you guys enjoy it. And for some of you watching this, you play hockey, you want to get together with your boys, and you just want to play games. That's what you enjoy. You're not necessarily concerned about next year. You're not really concerned about advancing. You're advancing to the next team. You're just like, you know what? Right now, my sole focus, because I enjoy it, is I just want to play on games. I just want to play games. For some of you, though, because I'm sure that there's a large portion of you that Maybe you'd like to play on next year's team, the next age level above. Maybe some of you would like to advance to a Tier 1 hockey team. Maybe you want to go play for the T-Birds, or maybe you want to go play for the Rough Riders, or I think the Rampage. I think the Rampage is the other one. I might have just butchered that, but I'm pretty sure those are the two that I'm very familiar with are the T-Birds and the Rough Riders. Maybe some of you are really focused on advancing and you want to play higher level hockey. And if that's you, just put yes in the chat and I'll keep talking. But if that's you, I would like to know, because for some of you, I think that you do. I think that you want to play on next year's team. You want to advance into a bigger role. You want to play maybe even get an opportunity on a Tier 1 team. And those of you that are of that mindset, I think a lot of you believe that playing games is the way that you're going to get that advancement and that opportunity. And I think that's the big trap that we fall into as athletes. Yeah, look at that. Look at all those yeses. So many yeses. You want to play on next year's team. You want to play on a Tier 1 team someday. You even want to play junior hockey someday. We're all about developing. All about, there's a lot of them. So many. I recognize the names. But I think a lot of you are guilty of thinking that playing games is the way that you're going to get that advancement and that opportunity. And that's a big mental mistake. That's a big flaw in your mindset, because I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter how many games you play. It's incredibly important for you to understand this. It's incredibly important for parents and coaches, for parents to understand this too. It does not matter how many games your child plays. Athletes, it does not matter how many games you play. What matters is that you develop. And I think we lose sight of that. I was going to ask you, is this true? But I think we all know that it's not. We lose sight of the fact that playing a bunch of games and going to a bunch of tournaments, that doesn't necessarily lead to more advancement and more opportunity. The only surefire way to make sure that you're advancing and that you get those opportunities is if you develop. Well, of course not. Of course it's not true. But now I'm going to speak to the parents and the coaches here. That's not how we always see it, is it? I think at times, I've been in youth sport for a long time. Been working in high level youth sport for about 7 years now. Even before I was getting my grad degree in sport and performance psychology, I was a little league coach in Vermillion, South Dakota. I have been working with parents for a long, long time, and I think one of the biggest mindset flaws or mental flaws that I see, or just a flawed approach that we take far too often, is we think that playing a bunch of games and traveling to all these big tournaments that equals your child's success or your child's ability to advance and your child's ability to advance and to get more opportunity. And I'm here to tell you that couldn't be further from the truth. That could not be further from the truth. The only thing that matters, your only job for athletes, your only job as a youth sport athlete, your only job as an 11-year-old hockey player, a 12-year-old hockey player, a 13-year-old hockey player, your only job is outside of being a great teammate, right, is to get better. But we lose sight of that. Because so many of you said yes. So many of you said yes, I want to play Tier 1. Yes, I want to be on next year's team. But I also think that it's fair to say that so many of you, maybe as soon as the pandemic hit and games were canceled and it was harder to practice, maybe we didn't work to find ways to get better physically. Maybe we didn't go out in the driveway as much as we should have and develop the technical side of our sport. Maybe we didn't spend any time watching film or watching previous games, or watching professional games, trying to get better, trying to learn the side of the sport. I think you guys need to understand that it's incredibly important, and parents and coaches are also guilty of this at times. We need to understand that the goal needs to be about getting better. It needs to be about getting better because, again, youth athletes place so much importance on playing games. I think at times because of the importance that parents and coaches play on those games. I think the way that parents and coaches talk about games, I think the way that they respond to it, I think that the importance that coaches place on the games and how coaches talk about results, and maybe we talk more about the results and not what necessarily even a good result. We'll talk about this a little later on in this conversation too. Maybe we talk a little bit more about the result than we do about the process and how they developed and things like that. I think a lot of these young athletes who are watching this, you parents and coaches that are also watching this, you need to recognize that the level of the things that you place a lot of importance on, your young athlete is going to place a lot of importance on. And I think when I see a lot of parents place a lot of importance on games or playing times or what tournaments are we going to, now all of a sudden the athlete starts to do the same thing. And that can become really problematic because now where does their focus go? Is their focus completely on developing anymore? No, it's not. Okay, so I think it's ironic that the original question was, how do we maintain focus on development? I think the first thing that we need to make sure that we're doing is that we're establishing a focus on development first. I think it's really hard to maintain focus on something that we haven't first established as the focus in the first place. Because I think it's but I do think it's really easy to maintain a focus on development if the focus was always established on development in the first place. Put a number 1 in the chat if you're following with what I'm saying. Number 1 in the chat if you're following so far. Parents, coaches, athletes, 1 in the chat. The hardest part about this, I think, is the fact that I don't have like nonverbal feedback from the crowd. Like I can't tell like if you guys are like just screaming at your phone or just like angrily shaking your head. I suspect that you're not. But anyway, the biggest advice that I would have for everybody here, especially parents and coaches, is what's the narrative? What is the narrative? How are you talking about games? How do we view competition? How are we treating results? Are we treating them? Are we so achievement oriented? Are we so, win games, how you do well at games matter? Or do we sit down with our athletes and even after a bad performance, do we say, hey, what can you get better on? What went well? What didn't go well? What do we need to work with? Yeah, good. A lot of ones. Good. Very, very good. How the narrative that we establish, and honestly, for you athletes, like you're not, without any responsibility here either. You're with just as much responsibility. The narrative that you tell yourself, all right? You young athletes, nobody talks to you more than you talk to yourself. How are you talking to yourself about this kind of stuff? Is the narrative that you're putting in your head, is the narrative that you're putting into your own head, are you focused on development, or are you just placing a ton of importance? The end-all, be-all is on games. Because there's not a single 18U player. Even the junior hockey guys, and the one guy that just got drafted, full ride. Congratulations to him. I guarantee you he didn't get there because he played a bunch of games. Now, we develop a little bit in games, certainly. He got there because he worked hard. He got there because he developed as an athlete. So if you want to maintain focus on development, let's make sure that we're establishing that focus on that development first, because for all you guys that put yes in that chat, that's what's going to get you there. Okay? There's my mouse. Let's go back. Who has a question? I'll take a few questions here. I realize that we're like 38 minutes into this and we're through 2 out of 6. So I'll tell you right now, I'm going to go as long as you guys are interested. So what questions do we have? Questions specifically about development or maintaining a focus on development. Or if we're good to go, just write good to go. We're moving forward. Again, this delay. I think there's probably some setting in YouTube that was there. It's not the worst delay. I can see, I've got my little phone here. I've got with the presentation up so that way I make sure that if it dies, I know. We good to go? Feels like we're good to go. Good to go? Oh, look at that GTG. Let's go. We even got the Twitch.com speak or Twitch.tv speak in here. I love it. It's like it's a professional stream. It's like it's a real thing, right? We got GTG in the chat. We're good to go. All you gamers. I love it. All right, let's keep it moving then. Let me go back over here. All right, so the next one, this one's going to be pretty short. So where does confidence come from? And the reason that it's going to be pretty short is because literally on Tuesday, I just did an entire video on this. Literally on Tuesday. It's funny that you guys asked this question because literally on Tuesday, I just did an entire video on this. So if you are at all interested in confidence, I think I put the link in the description. I think I did. Otherwise, just go to my channel. It's literally the first video. You'll see this thumbnail. Okay? You'll see this thumbnail right there for you. I could absolutely repeat everything that I just said in that video, or I could just tell you to go watch the video and we can save everybody some time, because if you're interested in that, there's a lot of really good things. Now, here's the thing. If you have a question about that video, put it in the comments section and I'll help you out. Okay? That's why it's there. That's why this whole channel exists in the first place. If you have a question, put it in the comments section and I'll help you out. Okay? Go watch that video. Really good stuff there. There's graphics. It's like professionally done. It's way more professional than this is, although I'm trying. Okay? And we're going to move right along. So let's move into talking about number 4. Time management and prioritization for young athletes. I'm so happy that I have so many of you guys in here. I'm really, really happy that I have so many of you guys in here, because essentially this is a life skills conversation. Time management is not just going to be a struggle for you guys right now, I assure you. In fact, it's probably never going to be easier for you than it is right now. Believe me. Unfortunately, I know I sound like the old guy in the room now, but it's a life skills conversation. And so, and this is... Spencer, love the question. Go watch the video. Put that question in the comments. Love to help you out, pal. Go watch that video first, and I will absolutely help you out. Okay? I think this conversation about time management and prioritization for young athletes, it's a life skill conversation for you guys. And like I said, it's never going to be more challenging to manage your it's never going to be easier to manage your time than it is right now. Okay, and like I said, I know I sound like the old guy in the room, but this is absolutely an aspect that, I've worked with my junior hockey guys, the guys that have gotten drafted to Division I. I mean, you want to be a Division I hockey player, you've got to get good at managing your time. So here are a few things. I think I got 9 of these. Few tips to help you guys out. Oh, before that. So here's how I'm going to frame this answer. Here's where these tips come from. I'm going to assume that you're a young athlete. I'm going to assume that, as we've already discovered, you guys want to advance in your sport and you're having a hard time finding balance. And the majority of this I'm going to be talking about is that free time. We'll be talking about that free time or those lighter days. Because let's be honest, on the days like on a random Tuesday, when it's literally wake up, eat breakfast, go to school, have lunch, do more school, try and find a time to like gobble some food before we run off to practice, and then we come home, we do a couple hours of homework, and then we go to bed. Those days we're just trying to survive. Okay? This is more so for how do we use maybe some of the lighter days? How do we use that weekend time? Because again, so many of you guys desired to advance. So here are some of my recommendations that I've given to my athletes. The first one is what I call the one big thing approach. And I'm going to tell you right now, I use this to this day. Every single day you can wake up, and every single day I wake up and I write down what is the one big thing that I have to get done today. One big thing. Now, for some of you, this might be one big thing in school and one big thing in hockey. Start here. I think so much when we start talking about time management and prioritization, we want to have just like a super structured schedule. We want to have every minute planned out, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'll give you an example. This one big thing approach. I woke up this morning. I write down my one big thing. There's a whiteboard over here. There's 2 of them actually. Maybe that should have been one. Get a whiteboard. I write down my one big thing on the whiteboard. Today was actually to finish this presentation. That was my one big thing today. I had a couple clients. I had to do taxes, lame. I had to do a few other things. Had to walk the dog. But the one big thing that I had to get done today was I had to get this presentation done. And here's the nice thing about that. If you get that one big thing done, generally you're good. You're good. Feels good. If you get the one big thing done for school, you get the one big thing done for hockey, we're good to go. We're GTG, right? We're good to go. But I think we just need to start here. Start here with just what is the one big thing that I need to get done today? Because then you get it done, you feel a sense of accomplishment. The next day that you get up, what's the one big thing that I got to get done today? And pretty soon, we've strung together a week, 7 days, 7 big things that we've gotten done. And all of a sudden, we stop having those days where we don't get anything done. We stop having days where we just lose all this. We lose all this time. The one big thing approach. All right, cue the eye rolls. Introduce a planner or a calendar. I'm going to tell you right now, guys, I remember the day, for all you athletes that are watching this, I remember the day that my dad brought a planner. A planner into my room, slapped it down on the little desk that I had that I did my homework on, and said, you need to start using this. And I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. I thought it was so stupid. Why do I need this thing? And I'm gonna tell you right now, it was the single best thing that could have ever happened to me. I still, to this day, I think I live my life via a Google Calendar. It's how I keep track of everything. I mean, I work with about 20 individuals a week. I've got team sessions. I've got talks like this. Got a mortgage. I know that I'm not the only one. I'm sure your parents and your coaches use the same thing. Start to use this. This is probably one of the single biggest life skills. You want to get through junior hockey. You want to get through Division I hockey in school. Your calendar will become your life. So listen, fellas, I get it. It's like, oh my gosh, not a calendar. Don't do it to me, Jay. I know it, man. It's going to help. It is absolutely going to help you. It is so important. It's so important to stay organized, to stay on top of things. Like even today in my little Google Calendar, I knew that I had to get this done. Boom, put it on the calendar. This is when I'm going to do it. This is when I'm going to go work out. This is when I'm going to walk my little baby dog, Bella, right? This is when I'm going to get this stuff done. And pretty soon, I've had a pretty darn productive day, and it's 8 o'clock at night, and we're still having a conversation. Schedule work. Now on this calendar, schedule work, but also fun. Schedule work from also fun. I can only imagine the number of people that we have in here that play Fortnite. It's totally, I've got no issues with Fortnite. I've got no issues with video games. I play them myself. Go figure, right? Go figure. But make sure that the fun comes after your work's done. So schedule the work, but also the fun. Make sure that you have both on your calendar. Because what this does is schedule the work, and then once you get the work done, the fun can begin. So then you're going to get the work done pretty quick. Works pretty well. This is a big one. Sleep, consistent sleep. Consistent sleep. One of the favorite things that I will ask when I work with my Tier 1 guys, we talk about the importance of sleep. Okay, because these Tier 1 guys, they play about 60 games a year. 60 games a year over 30 weekends, right? So 30 weekends, so you figure there's 60 game nights. Let's just call it, nice round number, 60 game nights. If they go to bed 1 hour too late every single game night, how many hours of sleep have they lost? 60. Add an hour and a half on that. 90. 2 hours, 120. That's a full work week. Well, no, it's actually 3 full work weeks. You go to bed an hour later than what you should, you're literally losing a full work week of sleep. That's a lot. And especially for you guys who are athletes, that's a lot. That's a lot of sleep that we're losing. Make sure that we're getting consistent sleep. Start to leverage travel time. What I mean by this is use travel time to get stuff done. Who here wants to play Division I hockey? One in the chat. Make sure that you still have a pulse and I'm not talking to nobody. Leverage. Who here wants to play junior hockey? Put a 1 in the chat. If you want to play junior hockey, who wants to play Division I hockey? If you want to play Division I hockey, you need to learn how to leverage travel time because there's a lot of it. You got to do homework on the plane. You got to write papers on the plane. You got to prepare presentations on the bus. Okay? You have to get good. Here come the ones. Good. You have to get good at leveraging this travel time. It's incredibly, incredibly important. Another big thing, don't take on too much. See the thumbs up? Nice. Team Skiing Hockey LLC. I have to check out what that means. Very cool. There we go. Yeah, there's at least like a 90-second delay. I have no idea how to get that out of there. I'll have to figure it out somehow. Don't take on too much. Pretty simple. Try and be a master at a bunch of stuff, you eventually be a master at not a lot of stuff. And that's not good for anybody. Don't take on too much responsibility. Keep it very narrow. Now, this does not mean don't play multiple sports. That's a separate conversation. Absolutely play multiple sports if you can. Don't take on too much. Don't take on too much responsibility, because then you're just going to get overwhelmed. Don't take on more than what you don't, bite off more than you can chew. Here's another one. Here come the eye rolls. Checklists. There's a lot of really, really good psychology as far as why checklists work. The biggest thing is when you make a checklist and you cross something off, it feels really good. I mean, the amount of checklists that I make is pretty insane, pretty ridiculous. I love checklists. At times I'll even make a checklist for stuff that I've already done, and then I'll go ahead and cross it off just because it feels good. It's great. It keeps you motivated, get stuff done. And this one is more so for parents and coaches. We've got to stop framing things as they enjoy as a waste of time. It's not about not wasting. Like this is not about avoiding wasting time. This is about helping them find balance. Okay, so this is more one for the parents and the coaches out there, that you have to help them find balance. If you basically if you tell them they've got all their work done and they put in the time and now they're playing Fortnite and you walk into their room and you tell them you're wasting your time, well, now essentially you've just taken away all the entire positive reinforcement, the entire reason that they're feeling good for all the stuff that they did in the first place. You're taking away the reward, right? That'd be like me when I was training my puppy, when she would do something good. Instead of giving her a treat, just dumping a cold bucket of ice water on her. They're not going to keep doing it if we keep telling them it's a waste of time. She's not going to keep doing the good thing that she did. Okay, so we got to stop using those words. It's not a waste of time. It's not about wasting. It's not about avoiding wasting time. It's about finding balance. Okay, so you athletes, make sure that you're finding balance. Totally fine to be doing the things that you enjoy. Just make sure that you get your work done. That's what, and I'm here to tell you, that's what all these Tier 1 hockey players that you guys want to be, that's what they're doing. Let's go back over here. Recognize Parkinson's Law. Now, here's what Parkinson's Law means. Parkinson's Law is pretty simple, and I think this is actually a really cool tip for parents, coaches, and athletes. Parkinson's Law says that the time that it takes to do something will always expand to fill the amount of time that we have allowed for it to do for it to be done. I completely butchered that. Parkinson's Law says that the amount of time that it takes to do something will always expand to fill the amount of time that we give ourselves to do that thing. Yeah, nailed that one. Okay? So I'll give you a great example. I had to get this thing done, this presentation done. I thought about giving myself 2 hours. I remembered Parkinson's Law. I gave myself 90 minutes. Guess how long it took me? 90 minutes. If it would have taken me 3 hours to do, if I would have given myself 3 hours to do, will you post this slide deck in the channel? I'll do you one better, Canales. I'll email it to Jamie and he can send it out to you. How's that sound? Absolutely can do that. But anyway, I gave myself 90 minutes to do something, and it took me 90 minutes. Now, had I given myself 3 hours to do it, how long would it have taken me? Probably 3 hours, because I would have jumped on my phone. I would have dinked around on YouTube. Who knows what I would have done, right? My dog would have distracted me. But no, I gave myself 90 minutes. I shut the door. I focused, and it got done. So there's my 9 tips. Canales, I'm happy that you asked that. I'd be happy to pass these slides along. That's no problem at all. Very good. Anybody have any questions before we move on there? Anybody have any questions about time management? Anybody have any questions about time management? And again, I know that we're on like a 90-second to 2-minute delay. I have no doubt that there's a setting. I don't think that I can do it while it's live without restarting, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm just gonna have to sit here and mutter as I wait for those questions to come in. Again, if you feel like we're good to go, this will be a thing now, GTG, and we'll just keep it moving. And we'll just keep it moving right along. Awesome. Good to go. Love it. I can do that. We'll just keep it moving. We'll go back over here. There we go. All right. Big conversation. Finding purpose on your team. Finding purpose on your team. This is a big one. This is a big one. I think because, again, if I'm going to break this down into what I think the problem is, some athletes struggle with their given role on a team, whether that's they're not a starter or they're not playing on special teams or whatever that may be. Okay? And I'm sure that for some of you, and listen, I know that we got a lot of athletes in here. I know it's not fun. I know it's not necessarily what you want to not be a starter, to not be playing on special teams. Okay, now, so symptoms. So here's what tends to happen for those athletes. They tend to be a little bit less motivated. They tend to resent leadership a little bit. They tend to act out. They at times are guilty of being critical of teammates, right? Especially the teammates that are above them, on the lines above them. They lack commitment. Okay, these are all symptoms. These are all symptoms. And so, again, this conversation absolutely is directed towards athletes, but I think this is way more of a coaching conversation too. I think there's also a parent role to play in this as well. Here's generally what I see as the solution and none of them work. Here's the first one. We tell them to work harder. We just tell them to work harder. Or even better, we give them specific things to work on. We give them specific things to improve on. I'm sure some of you are like, well, what's wrong with that? We'll get there. Hang with me. Or we just give them the spot for a day. None of these work for a variety of reasons. The biggest reason is none of them address the actual problem. None of them address the actual problem. Because let me ask you this. On professional teams, does everybody start? Does everybody start on professional teams? No. Everybody doesn't start on professional teams. They don't seem to have the issue, okay? Maybe for a little bit different reasons. Not everybody starts on junior hockey teams, but because none of these things, this whole telling them to work harder, giving them specific things to improve on, or just giving this up, none of them address the actual problem, and the actual problem is that they don't feel valued. This is the part that we miss as coaches and parents. This is the part that we miss. We miss that really the underlying root cause of this, of the reason why they're upset is, of course, they want to play more. Of course, they want more opportunity. But what they really want is to feel valued. They want to feel like they're important. Think about that for a second. They want to feel valued. And it's ironic because the things that we tell them to do, right? So the things that we tell them to do, tell them to work harder. Basically says, when you work harder, if you work harder, then you will be valued. We give them specific things to improve on. If you improve on these specific things, then you will be valued to this team. Or you can just give them the spot, which only serves to devalue the guy who you just took the spot away from. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. We missed the point. We missed the point. Okay, so there's a few different ways to solve this problem, and I tried to approach this because I anticipated that we would have parents, coaches, and athletes here, which seems like we do. For you athletes that are listening to this, how do you treat the third and the fourth line guys? Hard question. Hard question. How do you treat the third and the fourth line guys? Do you go out of your way to make them feel valued? Very important, because the fact of the matter is that on every single hockey team, there will always be a third and a fourth line. Somebody has to do the dirty work. Somebody has to fill those spots. But for you athletes that are watching this, how do you treat those guys? Do you make them feel valued? How do you talk to them? Have you ever thanked one of them in practice? When the first line guys are going against them, have you ever thanked them? Hey man, thanks. Thanks for busting your tail. For busting your butt for me, even though you're not going to play as much as I am in the game. Thanks for helping me get better. Anybody ever said thank you? It's something to think about. Leaders, this is 100% on you too. This is on you. Leaders of the team, how can you go outside of your way to make these guys feel valued? How can you go out of your way to make these guys feel valued? I just want some of you athletes, I just want you to think on that. I'm going to talk to the parents and the coaches here for a little bit. Give you guys something to chew on for a little bit. How do you treat those guys? Parents, I considered I considered not putting this next part. I considered not putting this next part in this thing, but I think it's, again, been around youth sport for a long time. I think one of the things that I see a lot of parents do is they really get fired up about playing time. They really get fired up about playing time. Is my child starting? Is he not? Why is he not? Why is he not starting? And listen, I've spent a lot of time. I've worked with a lot of parents. I understand that the underlying, like every single parent's trying to do one thing, and that's keep their child safe. You want to protect your child. But I've also seen it many times where parents will do things that they think is protecting their child that only serves to exacerbate the problem, only makes the problem worse. When you get so focused on, is my child starting? Is my child playing more? You essentially are very subtly telling your child, you're not valuable until you start or until you play more. Because then, where did the athletes get this from? Where did the athletes get this notion that it's so important? Where did the athletes get this notion that I'm not valuable? Those are hard emotions for any athlete to feel, especially young athletes. When you get so fired up about this, you need to be careful, because one of the messages that you're sending very subtly, one of the themes that you're sending to your athlete is you're not valuable until you start, until you play. And I know that you don't mean to do. I know that you don't mean that. I know that's not the approach that you take. I know that you don't even think or feel or believe that. I get it. But you have to understand that there's so many times that we do things, or that I see parents do things with the best of intentions, only to not realize maybe the downside. Okay, now let's talk to the coaches. A few different ways that I've come up to help coaches address this issue. The first one is establishing a unified team mission. Now Coach O'Leary knows what I'm talking about here, because this is the first exercise that I do with every single team to start every single season. And it's a little complex to like break out and to explain in this talk here with the time that we have. What I think I'll do, and if you guys like this, for you coaches that are watching this, just put a yes in the chat. If you'd like me to do this, I can do either a document or a video, and I can post it on my website. That'd be something that you could download. If that's something that would be valuable, I can absolutely just give you the exercise. Because essentially what it does is you break down a very high, we'll give the short version. You break down the big goals for the season. You divide the season up into different segments. What do we need to accomplish for that? What do we need to accomplish during each segment of the season that's going to move us towards our goal? And then you start talking to the athletes, and this is what coaches and what Coach O'Leary and all the other Rough Rider coaches have really enjoyed about this exercise, is you ask them the all-important question, what kind of culture do we need to create, or how do we need to be to each other? And the beautiful thing here is that you don't even offer a thing. You don't offer one word. You have them offer up what kind of culture they should be creating. You have them offer up how do they need to treat each other. What are some standards that they need to be able to have happen? And I'll guarantee you, every single one of them, every single time that I've had a conversation with the team, roles come up. They understand that they like, listen, guys, these athletes, they understand that roles on a team are important. Yeah, I can do the document, Jamie. That's fine. They understand that roles are important. It's just getting them to buy in. What's the purpose? Well, having a unified team mission, this is what we need to be. This is how we need to treat each other. If that's something of value, Jamie, I'll get something like that where it's like a downloadable, where it's like the other free guide that I do need to show a picture of here yet too. So that's one way. That's one thing that I think you can immediately install. Here's another good one. I think this is great. I tested this one out one time. This is a surefire way. Have the higher line guys serve the lower line guys. This could be, now here's the thing, this is not a punishment. We cannot frame it as such. We can't frame this as a punishment. Well, maybe it's just you pair one first line guy up with a fourth line guy, and the first line guy tapes that guy's stick before a game. Or tapes that guy's stick before practice. Or laces up that guy's boots, or does both. There's a tremendous amount. I tried this out last year, actually with one of the teams. They're blown away by how well it worked. There's a tremendous amount of humility in service, in that when you're in the service of others, there's an appreciation there. Makes the lower line guys feel appreciated. The higher line guys, there's a level of humility there. There's a level of there's humility when it comes to service. Really good stuff there. Find specific rewards or awards for the lower line guys. Maybe there's a specific award that you can install for practice. Some sort of grinder award, some sort of award at the end of the season, or not, probably preferably like the reward at the end of a game, that sort of thing. How did you frame it? How did I frame I'm guessing we're on a delay here. How did I frame the service of the lower line guys? Exactly the same way that I talked to the athletes about it. Hey, make sure that you guys are showing your appreciation for all these guys that are out here busting their tail. They're working really hard for you, and a lot of you guys get the opportunity to go play a lot more than them. So here's what I want you to do as a way to say thank you to them. I'd love it if you guys if one of you first line guys paired up with a fourth line guy, go ahead and tape his stick before next practice. Go ahead and lace up his boots before next practice. Just as a way to say thank you. Just as a way to say thank you. That answer your question? That's how I would frame it. That's how I would frame it. Something that's going to be done. They need to do it. And then also I think, the caveat there is making sure that the fourth line guys, remember, say thank you for doing this. Thank you for acknowledging. Okay? Especially with, I know we got a lot of younger athletes in here, and those of you that are still listening, just do it. Team captain, go tape the fourth line guy's stick. Go lace up his boots for him. Okay? Good stuff there. Find relatable examples from the pros. When I talk about this concept, the importance of role development, one of the things that we need to, that these young athletes need to understand is that, especially when we start talking about value, and for you young athletes, I'm kind of talking to you too now, especially when we start talking about value. One of my favorite conversations that I have with these athletes, and this is even on the tier 1 level. I'll even have it I think I just had the conversation with them with the 16s last week. Gave this example. You need to find relatable examples from the pros of guys who have made a career never being the first line guy, never being the starter, never being the star. This is a really cool one. I love telling this story. So my example, I'm an NFL fan. I'm not as well versed with the history of hockey as much as I should be. Although it started up, and I've been watching more of it. Watched more of it last year. I actually really come to enjoy the sport. That's a rabbit hole that I just went down. The example that I will give from the NFL, and maybe some of you can guess this. I will talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick of the current Miami Dolphins. Because let me ask you this, has Ryan Fitzpatrick ever been considered the star, a first-line guy? Nope. Last time that he was considered like the starting quarterback of a team, the certifiable starter of a team, he was the quarterback at Harvard, which last I checked wasn't exactly a football powerhouse. But yet, somehow, Ryan Fitzpatrick found himself a way to become very valuable. There's another way to tell this about consistency and the importance of being consistent as an athlete. But Ryan Fitzpatrick was never a star. He was never a first-line guy. He was not a first-round draft pick. Does anybody know how much money Ryan Fitzpatrick has made in his career? A guy that's only ever been a journeyman, only ever considered a backup or a placeholder for the next quarterback on any team that he's ever been on. $94 million. I looked it up today. $94 million. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. He has found a path to a 16-year career in the NFL when the average is 3.5. That's a great way to explain to these young athletes that being the best doesn't necessarily matter. Just be reliable, be consistent, work hard. If you're a third-line guy, be the best darn third-line guy you ever saw. If you're Ryan Fitzpatrick, be the best darn backup quarterback any NFL team has ever seen. Because people trust you. People trust you. Love that example. I think that's a great way to really drive home this point. You should see the buy-in. Right, the light bulbs start to come on. We place so much importance on being the starter or being on the special teams unit or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a spot, and that next year you have a spot, and the year after that is that you have a spot. And again, we talked about the only way to get that is to develop. The other way is to be really consistent and to be really reliable in that area. I love that example. Love that example. I think that really drives the point home. I think we're going to power through. I'll take a few questions at the end about that. Installing a growth mindset. We are currently going on an hour and 17 minutes. So appreciate you guys sticking with me. We still have 21 people, which means we still have 20 people hanging in here. So thank you guys for sticking it out. Let's power through to the sixth one. The last one that you guys wanted me to talk about was installing a growth mindset on the ice. Well, the first thing that we need to be able to do then, come on, Google Slides, hang in there. We need to define it. So here's the super boring sciencey definition of a growth mindset. It's a belief that abilities and skills can be strengthened through hard work and commitment. It's very simple. You know, a growth mindset's been a very, very trendy topic, very cliche. We love to use it. Growth mindset. This is what it is. It's just a fundamental belief that you have that your abilities and strength can be strengthened through hard work. The opposite, of course, the same boring definition for a fixed mindset, a belief that these things are fixed, inborn, innate, or just in general can't be changed. Okay, so it's super boring and sciencey. Let's find a more practical example. There you go. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career, lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeeded. A growth mindset's pretty simple. It's choosing, and notice how I say use the word choose, because it is a decision. This is a mental action that we can take. We always focus a lot on physical actions. This is a mental action that we can take. It is choosing to believe that failure and adversity, choosing to see failure and adversity as a challenge, as something that can be overcome, as something that you can develop and that you can move past. The majority of people with a fixed mindset, the phrase that I'll say is that they see failure as fatal. They see failure as the end-all be-all. I failed, I will always be thus I will always be a failure. I will never be able to move past failure. That's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is the ability to just look at challenging situations and adversity, and to see them as such, as an opportunity to overcome, as a challenge. Okay, now how do we do this? Super simple ways. We had the super boring definition. We're going to keep using the word super simple ways to install this. Athletes. All right, I'm talking to you boys again. Listen up. Don't be sleeping. Don't be playing Fortnite. You have to work to see the upside. There are so many, and I'm talking to you athletes, there are so many of you that just naturally focus on the negative. And in part, it's not your fault. The world that we live in is incredibly negative. That's why we don't watch the news. That's why I don't watch the news. Many aspects of our world just naturally skew towards the negative. And because of that, that becomes, unfortunately, an aspect of our athletes' mindsets. That becomes an aspect of your mindset. A mindset's nothing more, for you athletes, a mindset's nothing more than the patterned way that you think. It's your thought habits. And many of you have this nasty habit that when bad stuff happens, you just tend to focus on it. And it controls what you do or what you don't do. So you have to work to see the upside. So here's how you can practice this. You've got a pen and a paper. Take this down. I know we'll get these slides passed out to you too. Here's how you can practice this. Immediately after a game, regardless of how you feel, and understand that how you feel is okay. Whether you feel good, whether you feel bad, I want you to identify how you feel. Very important aspect. We don't have time to talk about this today, but I need you to understand that emotions are going to come and go. We can't control the emotions that we feel. We can only control what we do when we feel those emotions. So the biggest thing for you is to identify. The thing that helps is to identify the emotion as it's happening. Maybe you're angry and frustrated and super discouraged after a game. Probably helpful to recognize the anger and the frustration before it controls what you do, before it controls how you treat yourself. Understand that it's okay to feel that way. It's just not okay to take all those actions that come with that. All right, so that's the first step. Next thing I want you to do is identify what went wrong. And I want you to frame it, and I want you to write it down through the lens of physical, technical, tactical, mental. What went wrong? Was it a physical thing? Do I just need to get bigger? Do I need to make sure that did I just run out of energy? Do I need to work on my endurance? Maybe it was a technical thing. Do I need to work on skating? Do I need to work on my passing? Do I need to work on my receiving of the pass? Do I need to work on a specific technique? Maybe it was a tactic. Maybe you just didn't understand what was going on and we got to get in the film room. Maybe it was mental and we got to go look at Jay's channel, Train with PERC. Got to figure out if he's got a video. If not, maybe ask him. Maybe ask him for a video. Identify what went wrong. Was it a physical thing? Was it a mental thing? Was it a tactical thing? Was it a technical thing? And then pick 1 or 2 things that you're going to commit to working on. Take it immediately to the next practice. Immediately to the next practice. Notice how what we don't do is, I failed, that really stinks, that feels terribly, I'm going to avoid hockey and not work hard at it. And I don't want to think about that game anymore. That's what we usually do. I just failed, that feels terrible, I don't want to think about it anymore. And the issue when we do that is we don't learn from it. How can you learn? How do you know what to work on? How can you possibly know what to work on if you never think about what went wrong in the first place? 3 simple little steps here for you guys. Start doing it. It's going to help. Promise. It's going to help. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this one. Because now you have your one big thing. Remember the whole planner thing? How we hate planners? They're the worst and the best at the same time. Now you have your one big thing that you can write on your little whiteboard in the morning. This is my one big thing today. Saturday morning, I'm going to do my chores, hopefully. But at least I know what my one big thing is. I got to go work on this thing. And that's all it is, guys. Everybody fails. And we know that. I know that you guys know that. How do we respond to it? Reiterate that the review is useful after tough games and successful games. Oh yeah, great point. So again, like I said, this is not, yeah, great point. Let me reiterate that point. So again, this is obviously really nice. This is obviously really nice to have in our back pocket for when we fail. But we also need to learn from the successes too. We also need to learn and we need to assess, like, hey, we won the game. That feels awesome. Maybe I should write down what I did really well so I know what to do next time. I think some of you guys are starting to see that some of this basic mental training stuff is exactly that. It's very basic. It's very simple. We're not reinventing the wheel over here. We're just building better habits. We're making it make sense for you guys. That's it. We're just making it make sense for you guys. So again, good games, bad games. Identify what went right, what went wrong. Identify what you can lean on for next time in terms of what you did really, really well. Identify a few things that you need to work on from the things that didn't necessarily go right. Parents and coaches, things to consider. This is really important, especially when we're talking about a growth mindset here. What do you praise when your athlete succeeds? You're a coach, you're a parent. In the locker room, team just won. Do you say, hey guys, great win, great performance, or just great win? Or do you frame it as, hey guys, we executed A, B, and C really well. And because of that, we won. Process, results. I think you know where I'm going with this. Again, it goes back to when we talked about narrative earlier. We need to be very, very conscious of the narrative that we're giving our young athletes. This is arguably, like I said, the most powerful tool that I use. Like when I work with one of my athletes, we just had a junior hockey player that I've been working with. He's been struggling with a very specific thing, and we've been working, and he went out and he crushed a performance. And I literally told him, I don't care how well, I don't care about the success. I'm happy that you had the success. What I care about is that you understand how you got there. Very important. Very, very important, because we're positively reinforcing the right things. Likewise, how do we respond to failure? Very same concept. I don't think I need to break that down, because at the end, and I think one of the key points here with this is, especially for you coaches, you also have to work to see the upside, right? The coach's mindset is arguably just as important as any athlete mindset. You too have to work to see the upside, right? Very important, very important. And again, it's also a great way to model the behavior, especially if you have some younger athletes there. And then the last one here, just positively reinforce when they display the growth mindset. It could be something that they said. It could be a way that they approached it. It could be, just maybe, heck, maybe they just had a better attitude coming off of it, and you ask them why, and they said, well, I know what I need to work on now. Give that kid a Sunday. I don't care what you do. Like, get something in that kid's hand to say, this is a good thing. Do more of that. Look out. Look for opportunities. Look for opportunities to positively reinforce that. That is all. That is all. I do want to plug this here real quick. The link to this is down in the description. This is free. Free, like that commercial. PERC Fit Guide to Winning Your Next Big Moment. Trainwithperk.com/free guide. If you're at all interested in starting to learn how to mental train, get over there, get your parents over there, type in an email address so I know where to send this downloadable link to, and then we're going to be good. Then we're going to be good to go. Okay, it's 100% free. For you coaches, give me a. I've got a fairly busy schedule. I promise you, I will get that that team mission guide, that team mission doc is a downloadable for you guys over there. Okay, I think that's an hour and a half on the nose. Thank you guys. So, do we have any questions? Otherwise, I can let you guys get any. What do you guys think? Athletes, coaches, what do you guys think? Do you guys get some value out of this? What I think that I'm going to do is, I think I decided this, and let me actually show my face on the camera again, so I'm just not talking to that. What I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try and make this a weekly thing. So what I would love, whether you're an athlete or you're a coach or you're a parent, doesn't matter. When this video goes up, or even now in the comments, and you had a question or you have a very specific question, type it out. I'm going to be polling, I'm going to be polling my Facebook audience. I'll poll my email list. I think I'd like to make this a weekly thing. It can be topics. It can be a specific challenge. Hey, I'm having a very specific challenge with my team. Submit that question to me. And I think I'd like to do more of these. I think I really enjoyed this. It seems like you guys really enjoyed it. You got some value out of it. Put your questions down below. And then I will just kind of keep an eye on the channel, and I'll schedule a stream. Also, if you go get that guide, that'll actually put you on my email list too. And then every weekly email, when I send out new free content and stuff like that, I've got like about 500 people on that email list, parents, coaches, athletes, that they just get the stuff sent right to their email inbox. So even if you're not an athlete, go over there, get that guide for your athletes. Parents and coaches can use it. That'll put you on the email list. That'll let you know when a lot more of this stuff is going to happen. And then I'll schedule the streams and make that announcement kind of in that weekly email too. So like I said, the purpose of this is to start to make this stuff more accessible. It's high time that we did so. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for being here. I am wiped. And my voice is failing me. So yeah, put your comments below. Love to hear